Testing, 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 testing. Is there video now? I assume if it starts working, I will start seeing people in chat again. Alright, oh, people. Just when I was starting to give up. Still got the bell from back in the day. Okay, so you guys can hear me, but can you see my computer screen? That was the trouble last time. Alright, I'm getting yeses. We have a fair amount of lag here, so I'm gonna try to wait for a response from the audience as little as possible. Now, I can't see chat. While what do I want to do about that? Alright, well, I wonder if I can pull up the chat for this live stream on my phone. Now, that's gonna tax my Wi-Fi too much. Damn, he's got the golden pot, says student. Okay, I gotta show off a little bit to you guys. Not only do I have the golden pot, I'm not going to be able to see chat while I do this, so you'll have to forgive me if I'm a bit unresponsive. But I've been playing this game way too much. Oop. Fuck. It occurs to me I don't know if you guys can hear the game or not. I don't especially care either way. I don't know. If I do this again, I'm going to have to find a different chair or something, because I'm not in a good position to project. Like, I'm kind of hunched over. I can feel like when if I were recording a video, I would lean back and I would do this and I would speak clearly and loudly, but it's hard to do that when I'm hunched over my laptop like this. Useful information for next time. Fuck, god damn it. Okay, I'm gonna check on chat real quick. Wonder what people are saying. Alright, you guys do not have game audio. Good to know. We need to hear his grunts. It adds to the experience. Alright, I don't want to futz with OBS enough to figure out how to get game audio, at least not right now. We can do that in a minute. How are you guys doing? What's going on in your lives? I can't see chat while I play, but there's not that many of you right now, so I suspect I'll be able to read a bunch of them when I get back. I honestly had no idea if anyone would show up to this thing. It's like 9 a.m. on a Monday or something. This is not ideal timing for a live stream. Almost. If I hadn't slipped there, that would have been really impressive, huh? Yep, there we go. You don't get to hear Diogenes' grunts of exasperation, but you get to hear mine. Almost went too far there. Almost overshot it. Alright, I've gotten way better at bucket lately. It's going to be fun to show off here, assuming I don't completely fuck up. And yep. Yeah, there we go. You guys ready to see my win count? I have beaten this game once or twice by now. Let's look at chat. I just woke up and it's almost noon. Yep. My sleep schedule has been wrecked. Guys, I recently got diagnosed. Okay, I didn't get diagnosed. I was talking. I saw a sleep specialist, and there's tests they still want to run, but she was like pretty confident. I have something called non-24 sleep-wake disorder. It's really common in blind people, but very, very rare among sighted people. Um, the sleep specialist I talked to, she said she had only encountered like 4 people in her whole life or in her whole career who weren't blind who had this. Um, and frankly, I was overjoyed when I found out about this because do you guys ever have that feeling of like you're a little kid and you feel really sick, you feel really crappy, but you don't want to, and you don't want to go to school, but you don't have a fever, like there's no outward symptoms, so like you you feel like you're probably going to be sent to school even though you feel bad, but then you throw up. And now you can take the bucket to your parents and you can be like, "Mom, Dad, look, I don't have to go to school now, right? Like I really am sick." That's kind of how I feel when the doc told me all this. I was like, wow, it's not just my terrible sleep hygiene, because like my sleep hygiene really is terrible, but it's like apparently there's also like genetic reasons why I've really, really struggled to keep a sleep schedule my entire life. Um, all right, time to let me actually get caught up on chat here. Where was I? Doing well. I have 2 job interviews soon, and I'm passing time till then. Good luck with your job interviews, Valentina Augusta. I pulled an all-nighter for no reason other than I kind of felt like it. Fair enough. I now have a default sleep length of 10 or 11 hours somehow. Sleep is hard. Sleep is hard. SCA event in southwest of Ireland at an actual castle. Ooh, someone's been doing archery. That sounds fun. Left out the high school and working. This bruh finishing the game like it's nothing. Yeah. I've gotten just a little bit of practice. Merry Gamus to all, and to all a good cock. I don't know. And to, Merry Gamus to all, and to all some good dick. There we go. Zidis thought it was all procedurally generated. Man, I love getting over it. Such a my sibling went to what was for a little while an art major, and they told me about a lot about the fine art world and how I don't know needlessly sadomasochistic it can be. Uh, anyway, I feel like getting over it is succeeding at being what a lot of fine art is trying to be. Like a lot of by fine art I mean like museum art, like the kinds of stuff that the kinds of stuff that Mexican criminals use to launder money, that kind of stuff. Kind of stuff that's mostly just there to be expensive. The power of autism. Yep. Speaking of my sibling is autistic, but like they got tested for it. I honestly don't know whether or not I count. I got diagnosed with borderline Asperger's syndrome when I was like really young. Um, Diagnostic criteria have changed since then. I have also changed since then. So like I honestly have no idea whether I would count as officially autistic if I like took a test. But yeah, I thought you were dead. Me too, Golden Kabir, me too. Are you exist? Nah, you're dreaming. What if you're actually blind but only think you can see? There's a type of blindness that does that. Huh. How do you test for that? That's what you think you can see. I feel like I'd be bumping into more walls if that were the case. Okay. From my view, there's a sort of half-minute pause between me pressing send and it being on screen. Yeah, uh, my internet connection is not the best, so I don't think there's anything I'm going to be able to do about this lag. Okay, so this is actually kind of interesting. So this is not medical advice. This is something the sleep specialist I saw told me. But what she told me was that humans normally, like, actually have a circadian rhythm that's longer than 24 hours. It is, so if you take just the average person and stick them in a room with no light and then no external cues about when it's day or night, and you just let them sleep and be awake whenever they feel like it, they will actually naturally have a circadian rhythm of about 24 and a half hours. Um, m- Most of us don't have, like, most of us sleep during the night and are awake during the day because our brain is constantly in a process of adjusting our own circadian rhythm based on external cues. Um, so people who say their circadian rhythm is longer than 24 hours, it actually it technically kind of is. The difference between the average person and somebody like me with non 24-hour sleep wake disorder is that the processes by which your brain, it's called entrainment. Entrainment is the process by which external cues cause your circadian rhythm to get in sync with the day night cycle. And entrainment is stronger in some people and weaker in other people. If you have a really, really strong entrainment pathway, you wind up as more of an early bird. You wake up at, or even sometimes a little bit before dawn. But if entrainment is really, really weak, then the sun needs to be down for a much longer time before you'll actually fall asleep, and the sun needs to be up for a much longer time before your brain will notice and wake you up. Uh, so uh, the and there's sort of a normal distribution of this. There's like a bell curve where some people have really, really, really strong entrainment, and those tend to be early birds. Some people tend to have really, really weak really, really weak entrainment, and those are the night owls. But most people are somewhere in the middle. Like the most common is like the average, and then it gets rarer and rarer towards the edges. If As far as I can tell, non 24-hour sleep wake disorder is basically just the far end of the tail of having weak entrainment. So, both of my parents were night owls. Like, when I was growing up, both of my parents would regularly like stay up until midnight and sleep in until noon a lot of the time. Uh, and the theory is that I basically just got a whole bunch of night owl genes. Like, I got a lot of night owl genes from my mom and a lot of night owl genes from my dad, and it made me like night owl squared to the point where my entrainment is, I don't think I know anyone in my life who is more of a night owl than me who has weaker entrainment. Like, if you get to the point where I am, then you will start, whether you like it or not, you will start staying up later and later and later every night and waking up later and later and later every morning until, like, you'll just go all the way around the clock. Like, that'll keep going until you're fully nocturnal, and it won't stop, and it'll just keep rotating. And that is what's going on with me. I've actually, so I woke up at 3 a.m. this morning. Uh, because I've just been, yeah, it's just processing. Right now, I'm not trying to keep it from just free running. Um, Man, I can ramble about my sleep troubles forever. Uh, so I'm gonna try to cut it off there, at least for now. Times the thought that I didn't achieve that day keeps me up, and I get an impulsive all-nighter, then ending up doing that. Oh, okay, hang on. I'm gonna have to start skimming if I want to actually get caught up on chat. I'm very behind at this point, and I keep losing my place. Other people have sleep issues. Thought you were gonna say my sibling is autistic, but they got over it. Oh man, the vaccines turned me autistic. Well, I got better. Surge Scum says, I wish I had some type of diagnosis, had myself tested, wasn't Asperger's. Being like me can't possibly be normal. If I were, I might recommend, I've been really getting into Healthy Gamer GG lately. I forget the name of the guy, but Healthy Gamer GG is the name of the YouTube channel. There's a psychiatrist guy who I've found him really helpful and really interesting. If you have mental health trouble of any sort, I recommend at least checking them out. I wonder what the evolutionary cause for that is. Nope, gonna take at least a little bit of a break from. No, I can't stop myself. So I've thought about that a bunch. I heard a really interesting theory a little bit ago that humans have actually evolved to have slightly different sleep schedules from each other. The idea is that if some people in your tribe are uh, massive night owls and other people are really early birds, then there's barely going to be any time of the day when none of you are awake, and that means there will always be somebody to like keep an eye out for lions and tigers and bears. Um, so I don't know, the impression like maybe that there's just maybe there was actually evolutionary pressure for a bit of chaos, like just a bit of most of you should have sleep schedules along these lines, but we'll just mix in some random shit and whatever happens happens. And that sounds really plausible to me, so that's what I think of. Dr. K, yep, that's him. I think my sleep issues are connected to how I see my day life as filler for my night life. Yeah, yeah, man, that's kind of how this channel started. Like I was I was in high school and uh I don't know, I wanted to make stuff. I wasn't bored. Well, I don't know. I was simultaneously bored and also really stressed about school. So I was desperate for just something to get my mind off of how I should be doing my homework. And yeah, it was like during the day I would go to school and uh, get homework done, but like it felt like the only time I could actually really live my life was like after my parents went to bed. And that's when I did most of the work on these videos early on. Still not caught up on chat. Will I ever win the race against time and actually read the most recent chat in this little window? That sounds like me, but I wonder if my terrible computer habits has had something to do with it. Probably. 7-year-old autistic son is exactly the same. My 17-year-old autistic son is exactly the same. Constantly goes upside down nocturnal, and we have to turn him around. It has been an appointment like today. He woke up at 3 a.m. this morning, just like you. Yeah, like look into like consider the possibility that he might have 24-hour sleep-wake disorder. Um, it it might like first step is probably just going to a doctor. In my case, it was kind of a long process before I saw a sleep specialist who had actually dealt with this at all, but I don't know. I wonder if it's getting more common. I bet it is. I can think of several reasons. Lots of I don't know. I can ramble about that for a bunch. Time to take my progesterone. I know what progesterone is. I don't know what progesterone is. I've heard of it. Ricky J says, "Hello, Xidnaf. How goes it?" It goes well, Ricky J. I seem to be live streaming. I'm a real live streamer. It's exciting. I don't know if I'm ever going to live stream again. I don't know. Frankly, I just wanted to see if I could. I have a job that gives me a lot of money and I don't do a lot, and I'm always scared they're going to realize that I'm not doing a lot and they're going to fire me. Man. Yeah. So, me now deal with it. You are I imagine you might have brought that up in part because I talked about bullshit jobs a while ago, which is basically it's David Graeber's theory that um, okay, how do I summarize the bullshit jobs thesis? I think the thesis of bullshit jobs is essentially that there's a whole lot of people like you, like there's a whole lot of people like me now deal with it who have jobs that pay well and treat them kind of okay, but like the main condition for the job is that you have to constantly pretend that you're doing work even though you're not actually really doing anything, or at the very least not actually really doing anything important. um, if I'm not careful, I'm gonna start just trying to summarize that entire book, but yeah, I guess the main advice I would give to somebody like that without going into a whole bunch about what David Graeber talks about is um, there's a lot of there's a lot of people like that, and the fact that you don't do anything, like your boss actually probably knows, or at the very least doesn't care. Like the people who could fire you, like if the company if the company you're working for really cared about making sure that everyone they employed was actually doing useful work for the company, there are ways of doing that. Like they could do that. Bullshit jobs are so common because there actually isn't incentive to do that, because having a lot of employees underneath you is actually just a really big point of pride for a lot of people. Like it's a status symbol. Like being a manager for whom there's like 100 employees who he could fire if he wanted to, like it makes you feel powerful. So a lot of the time, having employees underneath you, it's like you're not really an employee so much as you are part of the compensation package for your boss. Like part of your boss's payment is that he gets to boss you around. Or she. I shouldn't assume. So yeah. Uh I have no idea what Meme Now deal with its particular situation is, but yeah, I just wanted to I will take any excuse I can to talk about David Graeber. Like David Graeber, his books, frankly, kind of flipped my worldview upside down. If I ever stream again, I should talk about him more. That'd be fun. I think I could be entertaining by just talking off the cuff about David Graeber. I should reread some of his stuff and take some notes on it and like come back and ramble with you guys about David Graeber. Tai Hai Lei Zoe says, really appreciate you reading out all of the comments you refer to. Smiley face. Playing Mahjong right now? so can't look at chat but love hearing conversation. I feel that. Yeah, I I don't watch live streams that much myself. Like every now and then I do. I watch a lot more clips from live streams that have been posted to YouTube. The live streams themselves tend to be a bit slow for me, but when I do listen to live streams like that, I'm usually not watching it. I'm usually doing something else. So I'm thinking of myself as mostly a, I don't know, radio DJ right now. Like this is mostly just a live podcast that happens to have some video attached. Will it always be that way in the future? Who knows? But because like I don't know if I'm ever going to do this again. I just wanted to see if I could. Also heard that teenagers sleep later. Not sure if that's all true or not. I've heard that too. I'm and anecdotally, it also seems true to me. Ricky J says, I showed my autistic partner some of your videos and we bonded over them. Mm, it's adorable. It's so cute. Have you heard about Tally Hall? And do you have thoughts? No, I have not. I'm going to Google that as soon as I'm actually up to date on the chat. What the fuck? How do I get one of those jobs where I get a lot of money for not doing a lot? Um, Go to college and get a degree. It doesn't even, I don't know, like try to be a paper pusher. Like a lot of people who like the I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question actually. Most of them tend to be pretty bureaucratic jobs, but interestingly, not all of them. Um, and it's not like anyone advertises them. So like the fact that it is a bullshit job is kind of a secret. That's kind of part of the definition of a bullshit job. So having gone to college definitely helps. Having gone to college for something like accounting or business, something bureaucratic also helps. Beyond that, I don't know. Seems mostly luck to me. Nagato says, "Did everything go white for everyone?" Uh, so you guys should say in the chat if anyone else experienced some sort of white flash. Me Now Deal With It says, have you read Dawn of Everything? I've read the first half of it. I absolutely love it. It's kind of long though, and I got distracted and started reading other things. But it is like right next to my bed where I'm streaming this from as I speak. So yeah, Dawn of Everything is amazing. It's I think my tier list so far of David Graeber books probably goes. The first one I read, I'm pretty sure the first one I read was Debt the First 5,000 Years, and that's still my favorite. But number two is probably Dawn of Everything. And number three might be a tie between Bullshit Jobs and oh, what was his other book about bureaucracy called? I forget what it was called, but he wrote a book about how our culture pretends to hate bureaucracy and bureaucrats, but actually secretly loves bureaucracy. That's an interesting book. Okay, I'm caught up on chat, which is actually a little bit concerning to me because chat hasn't moved at all for me in several minutes. So I think something might actually be going wrong right now. Okay, I'm gonna do something silly. Chat hasn't moved at all for me in several minutes. Okay, my suspicions were correct. Chat continued while I was rambling. Oh, There we go. All right, don't know what that deal with the all white was, but all right, let's look up what Tally Hall is. An American rock band? Oh, I thought something had happened in the news. I have never heard of Tally Hall. I'll keep that open. What's my funky fresh DJ name? People should uh, make suggestions in the chat for my funky fresh DJ name. I appreciate all the content and thoughts you give. Would love to see you just do casual streams in the future. Good to know. Although I suppose this is a bit of a sampling bias. I doubt people who would love to see me do casual streams in the future are currently in chat. Okay, Tally Hall is apparently the kind of band that there's at least one person out there. Valentina Augusta says, you seemed like the kind of person who'd like their music. My friends can't stand me anymore because it's all I talk about. All right, that's a compelling recommendation. I'll check them out. Dylan Hartwig says, always been kind of confused at people who just watch the streams without doing something in the background. Right now, I'm working on a dictionary next to this. What are y'all, other than Xidnaf, other than Xidnaf, I suppose, doing? Put in chat what you're doing while listening to this live stream, or put it in the comments. I guess. Am I gonna leave this up? Am I gonna leave this public? I haven't decided. Whatever. Uh, Sina Tokipona a la Tokipona? I have no idea what that means. This person is talking about Tokipona in Tokipona. I know. Ah, I keep learning bits of conlangs and then forgetting them. I've learned a whole bunch of Esperanto and then forgotten it all. I've learned a whole bunch of Lojban and then forgotten it all. I've learned a whole bunch of Tokipona and then forgotten it all. Uh, I've even learned a whole bunch of Spanish, but I retained a little bit more of that just because I live in Denver, where it's not outlandish to run into somebody who speaks Spanish. Professor X is a good DJ name. Isn't that the name of the guy from X-Men? Uh, don't know if don't know if it. I don't know. Do you guys think Professor X fits my vibes? Actually, I'm not sure I care about the answer. I don't know what I even want my vibes to be right now. So wait, I know I should stop taking this seriously. I should stop encouraging this nonsense. All right. One person's playing Portal, one person's playing Celeste. Okay, okay, guys. My sibling and I have had such fights over whether Getting Over It or Celeste is better. Like, I tried to play Celeste and I hated it. Lee tried to play Getting Over It and hated it. But Getting Over It is one of my favorite games ever, and Celeste is one of is one of my siblings' favorite games ever. Um, so like, yeah, uh, we have had some conversations because there's a lot of overlap between the two. They are both video games about climbing a mountain where part of the appeal is how hard it is. And both of them are very deep games. Both of them are very philosophical. Both of them have a lot to say about the nature of challenge. Um, and yeah, both of us have sort of begrudgingly come to the conclusion that the other one is in fact like a good game and just kind of not for us. All right. Practicing guitar currently, says Roman Vasquez. Good luck. Nathan Weirasing? Weirasingy says, right now I'm just browsing Reddit before they kill off third-party apps. Did not know that was happening to Reddit. Unfortunate. DJ Lafabe for a kind of pun on alphabet. That's clever. Little French for my taste. If I nope, not entertaining the DJ nonsense. All right. That person who asked the question about Tokipona asks, I was asking if you know/use/speak Tokipona. Figured it was probably something like that. I think I answered your question well enough. One person's gardening indoor plants. One person's making baked ziti. Baked zeet. Wait, do I know what zeet is? Is that a misspelling? Okay, I thought it was ziti. Patricia Taxon. That sounds familiar. Oh yeah, I remember coming across online a video by someone about like comparing Getting Over It to Celeste. I don't remember anything from it. I should rewatch that. Wait, hang on. No. What? How do you spell Patricia Taxon? Copy, paste. Here we go. Nathan Weirasing says Celeste is better than Getting Over It. You're entitled to your terrible opinion. Tiscottus A says Ukraine war take. War is bad. Fuck Putin. I don't think I have anything original to say. I guess I've been a little bit surprised at how much I've seen. I don't know. Have I actually seen that much of it? You guys ever notice that there's this opinion out there that because you've heard people say it, but you realize that most of the people you've heard say that opinion, like you've never directly heard anyone say that opinion. It's just like people talk about that opinion and how terrible it is. Like hang on, there's an XKCD about this. Um, like this. Like there's this thing that happens to me a fair amount of the time, except where I hear, like I realize that this opinion exists, but it occurs to me that I've only ever seen people say that opinion in the context of YouTubers I like taking clips of them and talking about how dumb they are. And I don't know, I guess it's tricky to remember that that's the case and that you shouldn't, because like if you haven't actually heard from someone directly, it's probably not the best idea to be super confident that they're wrong. Like I don't think, like there's exceptions obviously, but as a general rule of thumb, I think it's best to hear directly from a particular side of a conflict before making judgments about that conflict that are too harsh. Um, with all that said, I guess I've been a little bit surprised and dismayed at how support for Ukraine isn't as universal in the U.S. as I thought it would be. Um, I mean, I don't know why I expected anything else, but yeah. See, what especially confuses me is like leftists, so like people who will identify as socialists and communists taking Russia's side. This is a very old take by now, but I don't know. I guess I've only recently realized how much it, like there really are people out there who their foreign policy opinions just begin and end with USA bad. Uh, I'm not saying there aren't more nuanced reasons to have mixed feelings about the war in Ukraine. Like I have mixed feelings about the war in Ukraine. I don't. I think if you don't have mixed feelings about a literal war, you're kind of a, like I think there's something kind of wrong with you. But oh man, fuck what you guys did to me. I keep I am in constant. You guys need to know something about me. I am in constant danger of taking myself too seriously. Like when I look back at my videos from Xidnaf's secret channel, my old vlogs, the main impression I get is that my videos are best when I'm just fucking around and not taking myself super seriously. Like once I start to get a bit of an ego, like once I think that the videos I'm making are like high art of some sort, they immediately get just super cringy and uh like it becomes obvious how big an ego I have. And like I really do have an ego that big. Like I really do think of myself very highly, but like it doesn't come across good on camera. Like I think you have to have a bit of a massive ego to be a YouTuber in the first place. But like uh your your videos are better if you can hide it effectively, I think. Uh anyway, I am trying. I think I maybe need to try harder to not try so hard right now. Like one person in the chat says Ukraine war take, and I immediately think to myself, I don't want this to be the kind of stream where I talk about geopolitics and war. Like I don't want that to be the vibe. But as soon as I saw it and read it out loud, I couldn't help myself. Like I couldn't stop myself from taking myself seriously. Like I opened with I don't have any good or original thoughts about it, and then I proceeded to talk about it for like 2 solid minutes. Uh, anyway, be careful. I guess I'm just saying all of this because I don't want any of you to be surprised when like someone posts in chat, "Hey guys, do you think Xidnaf should be the next pope?" Because I'm gonna read it out loud and be like, "Nah, I definitely shouldn't be the next pope. I'm not even Catholic." But then I'm just gonna start rambling about Catholicism until I talk myself into I should actually be the next pope. Like that's how this is gonna go. Rain World is better than Celeste or Getting Over It. I need to play the other two. This is just a Rain World recommendation in disguise. Well, it worked. I think I've heard of that. Yeah, I've heard of Rain World. I need to play that. Okay. It's crossed the threshold in my brain. It's been recommended to me enough times that I think I need to check it out. For the record, I never detect an ego from your videos. Get your ego detection checked. Uh, I don't know. Maybe I hide it better. No, I definitely don't hide it better than I think I do. Maybe my ego detection is just oversensitive. Hey Xidnaf, curious what you think of AI existential risk. I try not to, because I'm terrified. Oh man, okay, hang on. If you guys don't know, I have a Tumblr, and I mostly just reblog other people's stuff here. But, oh, where is it? Okay, apparently it's further back than I thought it was. Will this get me here? I always forget how to do this. Ah, I always hide the search bar from me. Here we go. Just search AI on my Tumblr. I wrote this about it. I have a lot of thoughts on AI. None of them original, but like, let me put it this way. I only give 50-50 odds we're all alive in 10 years. I'm like genuinely scared about it. We now deal with it. It says that if they were a cardinal, they would vote for me for pope. Wise choice. Going to be the first atheist pope. Ooh. TRIG Ireland says, I'm not Catholic either, but I have nevertheless picked my papal name, Philip, after the evangelist. Ooh, I should pick a papal name. Tim Priester says, I love to see a fellow Vosh enjoyer. Hi. Gonna move right on past that, though. Scottus A says, have you watched the Alien Biospheres World Building Project? I have not. What is that? Oh, Edgar's thing. Right. I forgot what he titled it. Um, wait, no. This is his collaboration with Bib. I'm a bad friend. I don't keep up with what my friends are doing. I should watch that, though. Uh, Edgar, by the way, is Artifexian, the guy I did a collab with forever ago. I've started showing up on his podcast every year for his he does a little Christmas special on his podcast, and me and Jan Measley and um, a bunch of people always show up there. I'm gonna stop there because I'm realizing if I try to name all of them, I'm just gonna embarrass myself. Hmm. So Colton Ringham says something here. This is a follow-on from an earlier point. Right. Someone earlier said something about how society lets people get big egos relatively easily, and this person saying Colton Ringham says Chinese society, for example, doesn't let people rise above the group as easily, if at all. Doesn't make them bad or wrong. That's just how it is. See, I'm oh they corrected themselves. Oh, never mind. Anyway, I am I feel like there's differences between Chinese society and my culture, but I'm not sure they can be summarized as easily. Like, I'm not sure you can easily summarize the difference between like Anglophone culture and Chinese culture by saying that like, oh no, you're not trying to summarize all the differences between the cultures. That's not fair to you. But like something about this doesn't quite sit right with me. It's not immediate. Like there is some kind of difference. There are differences between these cultures. Like this doesn't come from nowhere. But like I wonder, like the impression I get is that at least familially, Chinese society tends to be more hierarchical. Like Confucianism places this massive emphasis on like wives serving their husbands, younger friends serving older friends. Like all relationships in Confucianism are sort of hierarchical. They're always directional and asymmetrical. Whereas Anglophone culture, I feel, tends to place a fair amount more emphasis on sort of on equal relationships, on relationships between two people where there isn't a clear power imbalance. Um, Now, both societies have both kinds of relationships, of course, but I bring that up just because, like, I've heard the stereotype that like Chinese society is more collectivist, I guess, more individualistic. But so I feel like this notion that Chinese society could have that you could have that our society encourages people to get big egos. Like I feel like that's probably coming from that. It's coming from this contrast between like the collectivist communist Eastern Chinese society and the individualistic capitalist Western society. But like if your society is super hierarchical by nature, like with your Confucian worldview, wouldn't it be easier to get a big ego? Like, wouldn't it be easier to have a really big ego if your society says that just by virtue of being like the eldest man in your family, you have this place of preeminence? I guess I'm saying all of this because I'm not against making cultural generalizations like that. Like you kind of have to make generalizations of some sort in order to describe culture at all. But I don't know, it just feels I feel like when I find myself making generalizations like that, I ask myself, could I make the opposite case? And if I did make the opposite case, how easy would it be to make the opposite case? Because a lot of the time I will feel very certain, like something will sound right, but then I'll try to ask myself, like, if I believed the opposite thing, how convincing an argument could I make for it? And I figure out rather quickly that actually, like, I can see it either way. And this is something like that. Like, is it easier to get a big ego in China or in the U.S.? I honestly don't know. Like, I don't know. Corrado says that they are an AI alignment researcher and they're pretty pessimistic as well. Fun times we live in. Uh, I don't know whether to be. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to find out how I die, I guess. How much longer we last. What odds do you give humanity surviving the next 1,000 years? I think, in a way, that's a more interesting question because it removes the question of when we'll have AGI. Oh, good question. Man, I've actually gotten a little bit more hopeful about this in the last few months. I mean, it probably depends on what counts as humanity, but honestly, not that much. What do you guys think? Post in chat. What odds would you give humanity surviving the next 1,000 years? I find this to be a really interesting question. Think about what your answer is to that before I say mine, because I don't want you to bias you. Um, I want to say somewhere around 50-50. My first instinct is somewhere around 50-50. But see, my view is that if we can survive the next couple hundred years, like I really, really hope humanity survives the next couple hundred years because it would be really, really cool. Like if we can just get through the next 100 years, then like we can basically have Star Trek. Like there's no reason we can't have like a post-scarcity utopian society. Like like it would just be so cool if we could survive long enough to have that kind of power. But uh I don't know, the way things are going. Also, I don't know, there's Nick Bostrom's singularity. I'm sorry, Nick Bostrom's uh simulation argument, like the notion like that argument is more plausible to me than I would like or than I would like to admit. It's a little embarrassing to say that I I think there's decent odds we're living in a simulation of some sort. Like not guaranteed or anything, but like and if we I think that's kind of important because if we are living in a simulation, then like I don't know, I just feel like that significantly reduces the odds that humans will still exist in 1,000 years. Like if we're in a simulation, it may very well be the case that we will only survive as long as the simulators continue to find us interesting and entertaining. And I don't know, how will that last another 1,000 years? Will it last another million years? Like how much longer? I don't know. There's a lot of intellectual paths to go down here. Oh, I am very behind on chat. Okay, gonna stop reading out loud, at least for a little bit, and try to skim quickly. What are your current plans if you think we're 50-50 not gonna be here in 10 years? Pray. I'm an atheist, but I'm not above begging. Are you going to return to linguistics content? I love your earlier stuff and the COVID vids too. Maybe. Not reading things out loud because I'm trying to get caught up on chat. Okay, I'm seeing some answers to the what odds do people give that humans still exist in 1,000 years. One person says 100% easy. Nottam says 12%. Jamie Gilson says 80%. Some people have some more nuanced takes. Chance we live 1,000 years equals chance we live 1 billion years equals chance we live 20 years equals chance of alignment success. Yeah, pretty much. Well, I don't know. There's decent engineered pandemic risk. Uh, like I can think of a couple reasons we could wipe ourselves out other than AI, but yeah, AI is the biggest risk, I think. It's just me. Everyone I know in real life doesn't like that opinion. Everyone I know in real life is still more concerned about global warming and nuclear war, whereas I'm like, no, no, I was really concerned about global warming and nuclear war too, but like AI is uh like on the hierarchy of things that could lead to human extinction really quickly. In the past few years, it has very much just rocketed past all the others for me. Sorry for all the dead air, guys. It's hard for me to read and talk at the same time. Uh, I should do this again and enlist my girlfriend to help. I bet she'd enjoy it, and she could keep an eye on chat while I like stream something. We could, I think we might be able to fill silence more effectively that way. Zero. Okay. I'm gonna have to read chat out loud just a little bit, just because I am producing audio content, and I don't want you guys to get bored while I desperately try to catch up on chat. I have zero hope that world peace and zero scarcity will be a thing. Fair enough. It's debatable that whatever survives the next 1,000 years will bear any resemblance to Homo sapiens. A lot of possibilities. Colton Ringham has a lot of thoughts here about uh, collectivism versus individualism and the Western versus Eastern attitudes. I don't think I agree, but it's interesting thoughts. Part of my problem is I'm not entirely sure what people are even talking about when they talk about collectivism versus individualism. Like collectives are always made up of individuals, and individuals always make up collectives. Like it's not entirely like it seems to me like a lot of political conflict isn't between individualism and collectivism so much as it's between different visions of what kinds of collectives should exist. Like like humans literally can't live purely alone. Like we have to interact with other humans to be like psychologically healthy for the most part. So like you can't be completely individualistic, but at the same time we're not ants. Like biologically we recognize that each of us as individuals can make independent choices. So like all societies wind up with very complicated ways that these two phenomenon like interact with each other. And I don't know, I don't know, like it feels like it's obvious what someone means when they talk about individualism, but if you sit down and actually try to think it through, like write a definition of like what is individualism exactly, it's like the importance of the individual. Like, okay, but as opposed to what? Like what like almost all philosophies have some idea of value that places I don't know, even if all you care about is the collective is still made up of individuals. I don't know, this probably sounds very like I feel like I'm stating the obvious, but part of my problem is when I look into periods of history that people often describe as individualistic, I'm not sure that's actually the best way to think about it. Like take the European Enlightenment. When I think individualism, I almost always immediately think of like 1700s philosophers like John Locke. and the founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson. But like those conflicts, like the 18th century conflicts that the Enlightenment was over, I'm not sure it can really be described as collectivism versus individualism. Like I certainly don't think they used those words. Like I've read some John Locke. I don't think he uses the phrase collectivism or individualism. Um, Maybe you could say that it was about centralization of power. Like, do you have lots of little centers of power, or do you have a fewer number of more powerful centers of power? But that doesn't quite seem to fit. It seems to me like most of the conflict in the Enlightenment was about the role of religion in society, like particularly the role of the church. Um, like the French Enlightenment, especially, was about what was largely about um, I guess like whether Scottish society or French society was better. And like when I compare Scottish 1700s Scotland versus 1700s France, the main thing that strikes me isn't one of them being more individualist than the other. Like I think both societies actually didn't really care about the individual that much. The issue was centralization. Like the church in France was very hierarchical. It was one giant body that was ultimately loyal to the Pope. Whereas Scotland at the time was Presbyterian. It was like I think each congregation was independent, but at the very least, power flowed like upwards. And the impression I get is that's what conflict at the time was about. It was about, does power flow downwards? Does power ultimately come from God, and through God it comes down to the king and then to the aristocracy? Or does power flow upwards? Is it ultimately the people who should have the final say in what the government is? And both of those, you will note, are actually collectivist. It's just like it's the same collective, it's the same structure, it's the same tree hierarchy system. It's just a question of whether power moves up or down. And this is a massive tangent. I'm just saying all of this because, yeah, I don't know what individualism is. Let's see. It's wild seeing the public finally getting interested in existential risk. Yeah, it's been interesting. I didn't start thinking about it seriously until like 2017, I want to say. I think that's when I read Superintelligence by Nick Bostrom, and that changed how I think about things a lot. Put on music if you want background noise. Good suggestion. Go away, I'm sleeping says my favorite YouTube linguist from 6 years ago is alive? Wahee! Alright, Colton Ringham has replies to things I said, and I'm not going to read them because I'm trying to get caught up on chat. Cause I don't know. I don't want to miss anyone. I want to see the most recent things people are saying, but I'm scared of accidentally skipping somebody. Kotatsu says that assumes that individualism is not deterministic. If consciousness is brain chemistry, then thoughts and actions are 100% predictable, even if it is beyond our ability to make those predictions. Okay, hang on. Let me think about this. How does individualism relate to determinism? I don't think it does. Like, whether the world is deterministic or not, cause and effect still exist. And as long as cause and effect exist, it makes sense to think of some people causing other people to behave in certain ways, and that means that it makes sense to talk about power. So like, even if everybody's actions are fundamentally predictable, like there are completely deterministic systems that are chaotic, where there isn't one thing in the middle that controls everything else. And there's also deterministic systems that aren't chaotic, where there's one thing in the middle that, and like what's going on with it determines what's going on with everything else. Um, I don't know. I guess I'm just saying that, like, I don't know. I don't think determinism really has anything to do with individualism versus collectivism. Okay, I'm mostly caught up on chat, and I think the fastest way for me to see chat is actually to. There's got to be a better way to see an actually up-to-date chat than Googling my own YouTube channel. I'm mostly looking on the live stream. All right, I'm pretty much up to date. Go Away, I'm Sleeping says this is giving me flashbacks to A-level politics from last year. Valentina Augusta says, what sorts of books have you been reading lately? I'm going to think about that question and talk about it, and talk about whatever I feel like rambling about while I play another round of Getting Over It. I didn't decide how long I would want to stream for before I started this. I honestly have no idea when I'm going to stop. I have an appointment at 3 p.m., so I'm going to have to wrap up before that, but I'm probably going to get hungry for lunch before then. What books have I been reading lately? I recently finished those sci-fi books literally everyone and their grandmother has been reading. I didn't think playing video games would interfere with my like vocabulary recall as strongly as it is. Anyway, the book's about the sentient spiders. Children of Time. I recently finished the third book in that series. First one's Children of Time. Second one's Children of something, and then the third one is Children of Memory. And I finished Children of Memory a few days ago, and I absolutely loved it. Fantastic sci-fi series. Um, like that series has rather quickly rocketed to the top of my list of like favorite fiction that I've read in a long time. Like I've also in the past few years I've also read the Stone Sky trilogy, and I really loved that. I also read the Jade City trilogy. I really loved those, but there's I like the Spider books more than almost anything else I've read lately. Oop. Am I gonna fall down orange hell again this run? No, no, I am not. The only fiction I've read recently that compares to the Spider books is um, Detransition Baby. Detransition Baby was really good. Gender is interesting and complicated and confusing. Gender and sexuality and relationships. There's a lot going on in our society right now with all of that. And I don't know, Detransition Baby is just a really good exploration of all of that. What have you guys been reading lately? Post it in chat. I don't think I'm gonna get a very good time on this one. My record, my personal best is like 3 minutes, 10 seconds-ish, somewhere in that vicinity. Yeah, that's more typical. What just happened? Why did my mouse get big? Got a new laptop recently. Haven't quite figured out how it even works. Oh, Balaz Goody says, why do you only use 3 squares of toilet paper? Because I'm only 3 years old, obviously. One logically follows from the other. Man, that is, none of you are gonna get that joke. Hang on, let me explain that joke real quick. Um, ways of pooping.
Okay, you know how
So this channel, which I like, um, made a video about a fun story from his childhood, and I posted this. And it turns out that this guy was a fan of my videos. It's always weird feelings for me every time something like that happens. It's really cool. I never have any idea what to do with the information. If Mostly True ever sees this, hi, I guess. Thanks for liking my videos. Um, Dead air, 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 dead air. Do you read fanfiction? Says Felipe Vasconcelos. Felipe Vasconcelos says, do you read fanfiction? I used to. I really liked reading fanfiction. I should. Oh, I have a physical copy of Fallout Equestria somewhere. Um, I read the first like 2/3 of it. Um, and I've always been meaning to finish it. But yeah. McCurdy's book, I'm Glad My Mom Died. I heard of that book. I watched iCarly every now and then when I was a kid, and yeah, I should check that book out. I'm not the only one who's been reading Dawn of Everything, I see. Artemis by Andy Weir. What is that? Oh, I think I heard of this. Yeah, it sounded depressing. Well, honestly, I only barely decided to read Children of Time because I don't know, science fiction premises always just sound incredibly. They tend to just sound very depressing to me, and I don't like depressing books. I think the real world is depressing enough. I like books about magic and people having fun and saving the world. Like, I don't want to read a book about the world ending. I want to read a book about the world almost ending and then getting saved. Cursor gets big when you shake it on Mac. Is that so? Interesting. Pew? Pew. Brew? Brew. I think they added that recently. Uh, I read a Sonic comic about Metal Sonic hanging out with Amy a while back, if that counts. Uh, Jamal says that. I think it counts. Meme Now Deal With It says, thoughts on the effective altruism movement. Uh, 8 out of 10. Would movement again. Honestly, I don't always agree with Abigail from Philosophy Tube. Um, I very much do not always agree with her on everything, but watch her video on effective altruism, and That's pretty much my thoughts. I'm much more comfortable with utilitarianism as an ethical philosophy than she is. Um, like I don't think Abigail Philosophy Tube would I don't think she agrees with the utilitarian philosophical underpinnings of the effective altruism movement. But do you guys know what utilitarianism is? Do you guys know what effective altruism is? I'm realizing now that I'm answering the questions in chat as if uh, you guys just already know all of the background that you might need to know. Um, Holy shit! Did you see that Judy Hopps briefly surpassed Twilight Sparkle as the most tagged character on E6? What is E6? I have to Google that later. Um, where was I? Effective altruism. Uh, yeah, I'm not sure I have too much more to say. I don't. Maybe I should wrap up the stream. I can feel myself getting scatterbrained and having trouble keeping track of what I've been saying and where I'm going with it. Okay, to summarize, I like utilitarian. I like effective altruisms. Um, I like most of it. I think I'm more anti-capitalist than the average person in effective altruism, but I don't think that makes me especially unique. Like I think the impression I get is that a a lot of people in the effective altruism movement are very skeptical of capitalism. Um, so yeah. So Jamal says utilitarianism is like efficiency is the best thing. Don't know what effective altruism is. Okay, so that's not quite true. Utilitarianism is, how do I summarize utilitarianism? So utilitarianism is, I would describe it as essentially mathematized morality. Like utilitarianism is the attempt to try to be more scientific, I guess, about doing the right thing. It tries to say the morally best action is always the one that produces the most utility. Now, what is utility? That's actually a really good question, and different utilitarians have slightly different answers to the question, what is utility? But most what all utilitarians have in common, some people just say that utility is just pleasure. Like utilitarianism is about maximizing pleasure and reducing pain, not just for yourself, but for the whole world. Like maximizing the amount of pleasure in the universe, and minimizing the amount of pain in the universe. Like that's what morality is. Um, Other people say that it's more complicated than that, that it's pleasure, it's not just pleasure, it's also getting things that you desire in a more abstract and nebulous sense. That's more the camp I fall into. Um, but what pretty much all utilitarians agree on is that whatever utility is, you can add and subtract it. Like you can think of it in a sort of mathematical way. Like for instance, if you're a government official and you're trying to decide what policy to choose, and you know that whatever policy you decide on, some people will die and some people will live, uh, the right thing to do, according to the utilitarian, is always whichever option, or I don't know, it's probably whichever option maximizes the number of people who live and minimizes the number of people who die. Um, Utilitarianism tends not to want to think about things like who deserves what. It tends not to think about things in terms of rights or duties, or like it tends not to say that some people deserve to be happy more than others or some people deserve things more than others. It tends to just say, nope, the right thing to do is whatever maximizes happiness, minimizes sadness, or maximizes pleasure, minimizes suffering, or maximizes the fulfillment of desires and minimizes the absence of fulfillment of desires. Um, so this is in contrast, for instance, to philosophical systems like those of Immanuel Kant. Kant thought that, uh, never mind, I don't have the faintest fucking idea what Kant thought. If Kant wanted to be understood, he should have written better. Uh, I shouldn't say that. I haven't even really tried to read Kant. I read a little bit of Kant a few years ago. Let me rephrase that. If Kant wanted to be understood, he should have been less fucking confusing. He's not difficult to read, he's just difficult to interpret. But the impression I get is, okay, people who like Kant tend to say that Kant uh, said that some things are just always bad. Like, it doesn't matter the context, it doesn't matter if it will have good effects. Like, utilitarians tend to identify right and wrong in the consequences of an action. They tend to say, like, an action is good if it produces more utility, if it has the consequences of making more good things happen. Like, that's what it means to behave in a morally right way. Whereas um, deontologists, people who like Kant, they tend to say, um, uh, deontologists. Sorry, someone in chat is talking about Twilight Sparkle again. I'm easily distracted. Um, if you think it's always wrong to murder or always wrong to lie, or if you think there's some sorts of things that are just always immoral no matter the context, you're probably not going to like utilitarianism. Utilitarianism tends to be very the ends justify the means. Um, so that's what utilitarianism is. And whether effective altruists will admit it or not, I do think that their underlying philosophy is essentially utilitarian. Um, now, I don't think that has to be the case. Like, I think you could be part of the effective altruist movement within a deontological framework, but frankly, that sounds like it would hurt someone's brain. Like, I think you'd have to jump through some intellectual hoops to make that work internally. I don't know. I could be wrong. Um, Anyway, I like utilitarianism. Um, I I think it's a good way to think about morality. Okay, should become a VTuber. Switch D says utilitarianism is mostly an approach where values are promoted rather than honored. You want to maximize what is good and minimize what is bad. Whereas a deontic approach to ethics is about honoring those values, i.e., doing the good and not doing the bad yourself, rather than focusing on outcomes. Yeah, that's a really, really good summary, I think. Although I feel like whenever you try to summarize things in the abstract that way, it can be difficult to follow. Just in general, like I I think there is some utility, so to speak, in not focusing on the rigorous definitions. And I don't know, if you want people to really understand what you talk about, a lot of the time you have to give examples, you have to go into depth. Um, what the fuck am I even talking about right now? All right, I take it there's been drama on some furry websites. Jamal says, I have a friend that identifies as a utilitarian, but that generally believes that younger people have a higher worth because they have more life to live, like in thought experiments, uh, where a young or old person has to die. Yeah, that's a very utilitarian way of thinking about things, because like you don't value the life itself, you value the living, right? Like you value the opportunity to get to live a little bit longer, and saving the life of a really old person saves them, like will allow them to live just a few more years, whereas saving the life of a really young person will allow them to live a few more decades. So the you can use utilitarianism it's actually really, really easy to use utilitarianism to justify treating different people very differently, which I think is why a lot of people get very uncomfortable with it. But because like it's not especially difficult to use utilitarianism to justify some really terrible stuff. But frankly, I think you can justify really terrible stuff in any ethical system. Um, like Aristotle was kind of a bad person when he founded virtue ethics. Kant was kind of Kant was a racist and kind of a terrible person, and he founded deontological ethics. Frankly, I think utilitarianism has one of the better track records as far as ethical morality goes. But like, if I'm remembering right, John Stuart Mill was also pretty racist and kind of a bad person, and he was a pretty hardcore utilitarian. So yeah, I don't know. All right, I think I'm caught up on chat. I think my girlfriend's awake. All right, internet. I think I'm gonna go for now. Nice talking with you guys. This was fun. Uh, this has been a successful experiment. Thank you for coming to Xidnaf's first ever